Good morning. It seems that in modern times, more and more people today have the means to live, but less and less see any meaning to their lives. To comprehend the purpose of life, we first have to understand what is life. I know from my studies in philosophy, physics, art, literature, and Ayurveda that mankind's best minds have been trying to understand life since the dawn of civilization. However, it remains an enduring mystery. No one, past or present, has been able to offer a clear definition of life. There has never been a consensus on exactly what is it that distinguishes a living organism from other categories of physical objects. What are we, and what is the purpose of human life? As a popular song from the 60s once exclaimed, "We are stardust, we are golden." This is quite true, and perhaps a good starting point. Stars are dynamic entities being born, evolving, and then eventually dying. Stars are born when gravity compacts a cosmic cloud of atoms so forcefully that it creates a process of nuclear fusion in its center. Hydrogen atoms fuse together and create helium, releasing nuclear energy which expands outward against the force of gravity. So every star exists in a state of balance between gravitational inward collapse and nuclear outward eruption. Eventually, every star will exhaust its supply of hydrogen fuel, and gravity will be then unopposed and cause the star to collapse inward and form a small, inconceivably dense dot of matter called a neutron star. This unstable mass soon explodes as a supernova with tremendous force and heat, creating a cosmic cloud of all the known elements: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, gold, and so forth. Then the process begins again, with gravity compacting this new cloud into other stars and sometimes planets. On average, supernovae occur about once every 100 years in a galaxy the size of our Milky Way and play a significant role in enriching interstellar space with heavy elements. Our own sun converts about 4 million tons of its mass into nuclear energy every second. The ancient sages also realized that life on Earth depends on the sun, which was born out of a cloud of cosmic stardust. The connection between life and the sun was deeply understood by the ancients. Consider the meaning of the most revered mantra in all of Hinduism, found in the Rig Veda, known as the Gayatri Mantra. It says, Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimaihi Dhyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Translation: we meditate on the effulgent glory of the divine sun, creator of the universe. May he enlighten our minds. Now, the interesting thing about our particular solar system is that it consists of both large and small planets. The large planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, have enough gravitational force to hold on to the lighter elements like hydrogen and helium, and thus they are actually not solid, but instead gaseous planets. The smaller planets have less gravity and are more solid and rocky. Of these, only Earth has just the right combination of rock, liquid, gas, and the other elements at just the right temperature and other conditions to support life. Our generous Mother Earth shares her elements with human beings and with all life, like a mother shares her nutrients with a beloved child. It turns out that 99% of the mass of the human body is made up of just 6 of those elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. But we still haven't answered the question, what is life? Before we present the Vedic perspective on this question, let's examine some other viewpoints. Democritus, who lived in 460 BC, a contemporary of Buddha, was an early proponent of atomism, a materialist viewpoint which held that everything was made up of tiny atoms. He thought that the essential characteristic of life was having a psyche or a soul, a term he used to mean the principle of living things that causes them to function as a living thing. He thought that the psyche was composed of fire atoms because of the observable association between life and heat, and also because fire moves. St. Thomas Aquinas, who lived in the mid-13th century, like Aristotle, posited that life could form from non-living material. an early example of the theory of abiogenesis. Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, is the famous statement proposed by René Descartes in 1637, who also attempted to define life. Now, the simple meaning of this famous phrase is that if some entity is able to think about whether or not he or she exists, that in itself is proof that he does exist, because, at the very least, there is an I doing the thinking. Baruch Spinoza in the mid-17th century argued that nature, the material universe, and God are one and the same, and that nature, God, contains an infinite number of attributes, including life, which are extended to substances. He claimed that everything is predetermined, and therefore, in a sense, the future already exists. In 1944, Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger defined life as that which resists decaying back to disorder and equilibrium. This definition relates to the second law of thermodynamics, which states that closed systems will naturally gain in entropy or disorder over time. Essentially like a house without any maintenance, it will inevitably break down and decay. But by taking in nutrients and metabolizing them, living things can work against this trend. However, this definition would mean that, say, crystals, which take in energy and create order when they form elaborate lattices of particles, would satisfy the requirement of life. This is the problem with most proposed definitions of life. They all tend to have loopholes. For example, some have proposed that life is that which can reproduce itself. However, that particular definition would exclude mules, which are born sterile, but which are obviously living. Others have suggested that life is something that can metabolize, that is, take in fuel, convert it to energy, and use it to move and grow and also release waste. But many non-living things, like cars and my lawnmower, can do that. Fire consumes oxygen, grows, moves, clouds move and react to the environment, yet most would agree that these objects are not living. In 1952, two Chicago chemists famously filled a flask with ammonia, methane, water, and hydrogen, a mixture very similar to the Earth's primitive atmosphere, and ran an electric current through it. After just a week of this Frankensteinian experiment, they had created all 22 amino acids, which constitute protein, the basis of all living material. But they did not create life.